Hey there guys, Aldershot here, and today we're going to do an impression video on Mercenary Kings. Now, we've already kind of touched on this game previously, but that was a long time ago, during when this game was still in early access, and when this channel was still fairly new. So the commentary is not great in that video, and you know, I kind of want to revisit the game since it's recently been released out of early access and being sold as a full-fledged game currently. It's being sold at the regular price of $20 and developed by Tribute Games. Alright, and Mercenary Kings is very much a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up. So let's jump right into it so we can explore the gameplay a little bit more. Now, for those people who jumped into the early access, you know, got a bit of good news for you. They didn't wipe our save files, so we can continue playing from our previous games, which is kind of nice actually. A couple new things they've added since the early access. They've kind of added a lot more missions, a whole lot more upgrades and weapon types as well. And that's generally what they've done. I think they updated the opening sequence as well. They added a few more dialogue pieces, alright? So we're going to jump into the gameplay. We'll kind of talk about this area, which is kind of like your home base, where you do upgrades and you can change your weapons around and stuff like that. But we'll get more into that down the road. We'll actually do a mission first so we can explore the actual gameplay. And this is generally how the game's going to progress. You're going to want to do missions to missions, earning new ranks, and earning new ranks will give you more missions to do. You start off as recruit. We finished most of the missions here, and when you finish enough missions, you can do the final one, which is essentially a boss fight. And when you finish that, you can progress to the next rank, which we're in private right now. And we've finished a few missions already here, so we're going to jump into this one here. This is a rendezvous mission, so we essentially have to meet somebody, and all the details listed before each mission. Alright, so we're going to jump into it. Start the game, yes. Now, if you haven't noticed already, the game looks quite nice. Very stylistic, good animation quality, very nice looking illustrations. The pixel art's quite gorgeous, and it's very much inspired from the looks of Metal Slug. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, actually it's quite a good thing, considering how good Metal Slug looks. So I can't blame the developers for drawing inspiration for such a good looking game. They definitely kind of mixed in their own style and their own little touch to this game themselves, which is nice to see. And as you can see, the gameplay is actually kind of similar to the likes of Metal Slugs, or maybe Mega Man or Contra, whatever action side-scrolling shoot-'em-up you want to take. That's generally how it's going to play, alright? Which is actually kind of nice. The game feels quite nice, very responsive. Alright, so... And it's actually kind of skill-oriented as well. The game is actually quite challenging, but not overly punishing either. With each mission, you only get about 3 lives to play with, and if you lose them all, you fail the mission. However, there's also a timer, as you'll see on the top right hand corner, that ticks down with each mission, and each mission will have its own set amount of time that you have to complete said mission, alright? So you do have to keep in mind of that as well. Although I did mention it's not overly punishing, it is still somewhat challenging. Now, not very often do the timer run out. I generally either lose all my life or die before the timer runs out, for the most part. Alright. But every time you die, you do lose a portion of your bonus money as well. And money is quite important in this game. You need it to purchase upgrades and new items and stuff like that. So you're not going to want to lose that bonus if you know you can help it. But however, when you do die, you don't really lose much outside of, you know, a life and your bonus money. You essentially just kind of start over again in the last medic bay that you visited. So again, it's not overly punishing. It's not going to make you start the whole mission type over again, which would be pretty annoying. So there is that. So if you haven't noticed already, the mobs actually respawn when you kind of jump out of the screen. It's kind of like Mega Man back in the day, where, you know, when you move a little bit to the right, the mobs on your left respawn. They kind of took that little mechanic and instilled it into this game, essentially. So it was very nostalgic. It definitely took a lot of different elements from older games like Mega Man, like Contra, like Metal Slugs, and kind of clumped them all together into this one beautiful mess that's Mercenary Kings. The game's actually pretty enjoyable, I have to say, though I do have to complain about the map a little bit. Essentially, each mission you'll get a whole map just like this, and you can see where everything is, but because of that, because there's no fog of war, and because there's no actual indicator of where you've been and where you haven't been, you can get lost sometimes. You're not quite sure where you've explored and where you haven't explored. So, I mean, I find that to be a little bit of an issue, but once you get used to it, it becomes less of an issue. But, you know, at first, you might get a little confused by the map. I definitely did myself. So there is that. And the way the missions work, it's almost like it's an open world game where, you know, you don't just move left and you don't just move right. It's really about exploring the entire map until you can kind of find your goal. Like right now I'm supposed to meet somebody, I think it's down there, so I guess we'll head down there. We're over on the right side of the map, so we need to hit... Okay, I see, okay. So yeah, the map is actually pretty useful once you get used to it, but it'll take a little bit of getting used to. That's the only thing. Alright, now if you haven't noticed already, the sound design is quite nice. Very good music. I'll give you a second to take a good listen. Not bad, eh? It's kind of reminiscent of, you know, the older 16-bit or 8-bit era, you know, that sort of 8-bit music, I guess you can say. But it's definitely high quality. It's very good sounding and it's very enjoyable, I have to say. The loop's not too bad either. It's not that noticeable, so there is that. Now, you haven't noticed already, there's actually an interesting reload system. It's essentially the active reload from Gears of War, where you hit that sweet spot, your bullets will be more accurate and more powerful. So, oh, we just died. Alright, so that's actually kind of interesting. I do like that. It does, you know, add an extra layer of depth to the game, and I certainly don't mind that whatsoever. Alright. And the game actually does have a nice variety of different missions to play through as well. Some of them are hunting resources down, some of them you have to kill so many mobs, some of them you have to meet a said person. So yeah, a nice variety. But my biggest complaint about doing all these different missions, though, I have to say, I feel I should mention, is that, you know, it gets a little bit repetitive. The map doesn't really change much. It only really changes per rank. Each time you go to a new rank, you'll get a change of scenery, essentially. But as you play through each mission in the same rank, you're going to see a lot of recycled map assets, a lot of recycled environments, and that can get a little bit boring at times. But luckily, this game has some pretty addictive mechanics that'll definitely keep you going, alright? So you haven't noticed already, I've been kind of picking up these materials, aluminum, glass, etc. Now you need these to kind of create new weapons and new upgrades and you know, all that sort of stuff. So it does have a kind of a farming element to the game as well. So if you played like lots of Diablo or Warframe where you're used to farming for materials to create stuff, this game actually might be kind of interesting to you. Alright, I don't think that we're going the right way actually, so let's see, we have to go to right and down. Okay, gotcha. But yeah, there's a farming aspect to the game as well. Now some people might look at that as a negative trait. Those who are sensitive to repetitive play or just the general grind of stuff might not really like that aspect of the game. I personally don't mind it. I actually don't mind grindy games, as I'm quite a fan of Diablo and Warframe and stuff like that. So I actually kind of consider it as kind of an incentive to replay the game, which to me is not a bad thing, of course. Alright, so we're going to get some of these items before we talk to our rendezvous here. I think this will complete our mission. Alright, so I think she's our goal. Let's see. Or, okay, maybe it's the person up here. Yep, there we go. We rendezvous with our companion, and that's the end of the mission. Now we'll collect our bonus money and materials and that sort of stuff. Alright, so that's generally how the missions and the gameplay kind of work in Mercenary Kings. And again, you kind of go mission to mission, and you complete the objective and progress through the game. That's generally how it's going to work. And you get your story bits after each mission, just like this. And we're going to just skip through most of this. I do recommend reading the dialogue though when you do play it, because there's some pretty funny moments and the characters are quite likable actually as well. So that's essentially how the game's going to work as far as the gameplay and the mechanics go. Obviously, you know, you see me dodge roll, you can shoot different directions. I think you guys saw all that in the gameplay, I don't need to explain that. So we're going to explore a little bit of this home base and some of its features and some of the upgrade mechanics and stuff like that. So before I go into that, I should mention that there is an online mode. Alright, so you talk to this robot, you can switch between invite only, friend only, or public, or offline. We're going to just leave it offline for the time being. But that's kind of interesting. Now, I do have to say it's a little bit hard to find a random game. The community seemed to be kind of small, but it's not completely non-existent. Every now and then I do find somebody. But it takes a little while. You have to wait a little bit. So I do recommend like checking forums for people looking for games, or talking to your friends who might play this game as well and join in. It's quite fun in the multiplayer, I have to say. Alright, so we're going to explore some of the upgrades a little bit too. So you can upgrade your armor so you can take more damage and have more HP and all that stuff. And as you can see just below the upgrade type, on the right hand side, it has a list of materials as well. So that's the stuff that I've been picking up from drops from enemies and crates and stuff like that. So you kind of have to farm for materials, and you have to find the appropriate amounts and the specific type of materials in order to get said upgrade. Alright, so you can also customize your weapon. And your weapon upgrades is actually really interesting. It's quite fun to kind of just fool around with. You can upgrade different portions of the gun, whether it be your receiver, barrel, magazine, sight, stock, or your ammunition type. So it does have a nice variety, and changing these around will significantly change how your gun functions. Alright, so as you can see, you have a variety of different parts that you can put in, and as you can see, it requires a certain amount of money as well as material in order to gain that upgrade. So another reason why you kind of have to farm in this game a little bit. Alright, I'm not going to go into specific stats. You can see the stat changes on the left hand side, as it'll just take too long. I will show you an example of a different gun. So you already kind of saw my more powerful but, you know, slow shooting kind of rifle here. I'll show you my other weapon that I've kind of made, so you can save different sets and equip them on a whim as you feel appropriate. So this is my faster shooting gun. It has a lot more ammo per stock, and it shoots a lot faster, as you can see, but it just does less damage per shots. So there is that. As you can see, the gun is actually quite different, just from different parts being attached to it and stuff like that. So that's actually kind of interesting. You can have a lot of fun customizing your gun to your playstyle, which is not a bad thing at all. You can actually upgrade your knives as well. You can't actually add attachments to your knives. You just upgrade, buy new knives that have different stats and all that sort of stuff. So pretty, you know, what you expect, pretty standard issue upgrade system for the knives. Alright, and this over here is where you can change your name and your outfit colors and all this sort of decorative kind of stuff. You talk to those twins over there. Alright, and this guy basically, you know, you can get different companions, or not companions, sorry. You can essentially, this is essentially your monster guide. Alright, that's what I'm trying to say. It shows you the different types of mobs that you defeated, how many you've killed, and you know, their details and their weaknesses and strengths and their drops and all that stuff. So if you're looking for specific drops, this is a good way to kind of take a look at what drops what. because finding out which materials you need for different upgrades is definitely quite important. So there you go, guys. That's Mercenary Kings. Definitely an enjoyable game. I have to admit, sometimes a little bit repetitive because of the recycling of the mission and the level aesthetics. But other than that, pretty enjoyable. It has a pretty deep upgrade system, and it has multiplayer online and stuff like that, and it feels great, it looks great, it sounds great, but again, a little bit repetitive. So if you're sensitive to that, you do have to keep that in mind. But otherwise, a quality game. I definitely can recommend it, and I hope to see some of you guys online so we can have a game. So there you go, guys. Hope you guys found this informative and enjoyable. If you did, do show me some love, like, share, fave, and comments. But most importantly, please subscribe, help me grow, and feed me my vegetables. Thanks for watching, guys. All the shout outs.